Gotcha! We're not actually playing. We're just doing a synopsis because when I updated our software, I forgot to actually double check the microphone. Got all the cameras working though. So we took the 6-hour video. Meg actually took most of the 6-hour video and compiled a synopsis, which I went through and then added in details that were missing. There's probably stuff that's not all in there, but this is Meg spending an entire day, 2 days building it, and then me looking over it in like 2 hours. So
took me a day, I think. 1 day. I think it was 6 hours that I had to like sort through and remember all the details of.
Yeah, so it was a hefty amount of work for Meg. So thank you, Meg.
Yeah.
So this is our synopsis. Meg will be providing input as well as funny faces while I am reading to you, so that way you have something else to look at.
What do you mean funny faces? It's just my face.
Oh. Meg will be providing her face for you to look at.
Why are you so mean to me?
Shut up, Meg. Alright. So, Adventure 8 started out with Ishtar awaking first in her room. She grabbed all of her equipment with the intention of going back under the tree to sit, where she sat after Titus left. She saw 2 meals waiting outside of her room because no one had told Katriana, Marius,
looking at you, Marius,
that Titus had left. So she did not eat but proceeded to go sit under the tree. Next, Marius awoke, cleaned himself, ate breakfast, proceeded to go try and meet with Katriana, then realized he was in fact not clothed. He made himself decent, then went to Katriana's room, saw her food untouched outside of her room, proceeded to read the Lusty Tengu maid outside of her room.
Like, that's not creepy.
You're right, reading smut outside of a love interest? I don't even know what we call her.
And he was hitting on her for his own reasons, mostly because Marius hits on anything with legs, and so...
I think legs is...
Honestly, when she showed back up again, he was like, oh shit. Like, he didn't want any of that.
A little late, yeah.
Yeah, now he's gotta deal with it.
After that, while Marius is reading smut, Crow woke up, crawled out of bed, strolled to the window to look for the singing birds that awoke him. He screeched loudly, grabbed a vase to throw, then decided it was possibly valuable and pocketed it instead, or rather threw it on top of his pile of clothes. He then tried to punch the bird, and it laughed in a way that only a bird can truly laugh.
Don't ask us what that is.
It's kind of squawky, tweety.
We don't know.
He then went back to bed. Davina then woke up cuddled by Boot, which she managed to wriggle herself out without awakening Sleeping Beauty. She washed Boot's drool off, which kind of cakes. So it's not very pretty. Then got dressed, ate breakfast, and was thoroughly impressed with the divine chocolate that was left by Katriana.
That is some natural 20 chocolate. Like,
good shit.
It's the best thing you're going to find.
Boot woke up then, said he was hungry, but then decided he was going to make the bed, and that was his endeavor. Davina decided that she went outside of her room. She saw Ishtar's food, saw that there were 2 plates. She took 1 plate and part of the champagne and orange juice to make her own mimosa. She fed Boot, had her mimosa, critically failed on her search for Katriana, and somehow ended up outside.
You know, because that's what
it just happens.
Davina just doesn't end up anywhere but outside.
You know, it's because she's a Verdant. She's attracted to it.
Whether she's looking for it or not, she ends up outside somehow.
Or she makes it herself because she grows the grass.
Yeah, truth. But she was outside when she did that, so technically...
Yeah, I'm not drinking anything alcoholic, although this would probably be better. Probably be more entertaining after a while.
I would laugh so... That would be super funny.
Alright, so after that, let's see. We have a list here because we couldn't keep track of it all.
6 hours, okay.
Let's see. So, upon getting outside, Davina had an internal crisis of whether or not to talk to Ishtar, who was under the tree. Ishtar then called Davina over and they talked. They heard Crow do his yelling, screaming thing, then decided to go see Katriana and how long they can stay in the castle. Like Katriana does, she managed to bound up as she was being searched for.
Speak of the devil,
Davina...
and Katriana shall appear.
She's not the devil, is she?
No, but she shows up whenever we talk about anything important.
With as much of the shit as you have found out about her, she might be the devil.
Truth. But, like, also, she always shows up whenever we talk about something important, whether, like, we were looking for her or not. Like, if we're around the castle talking about something important, all of a sudden Katriana is there, and I'm very suspicious about that.
I guess I haven't noticed. Or maybe I have.
All the time. All the time.
Alright, so let's see. Davina pulls Katriana aside to tell her about Titus's disappearance. Ishtar asks where Krata is. Katriana says he's probably on his balcony, which he normally stays at whenever he's not working. Katriana apologized to Ishtar and gave her another hunk of chocolate, which Katriana also offers to let Davina borrow books on Aasimars because Davina didn't really know anything about the Aasimar race. And then she bounds off to run on her errands. Ishtar kindly gives the chocolate to Davina.
Note, Ishtar had been given a pound of the same chocolate by Crow the day before. She's a pound of this, and Davina is, like, staring at the chocolate like, oh my god. So,
it's the best chocolate.
This is the best chocolate.
So let's see. Ishtar, on the way up, notices a suspicious person and asks for...
I didn't notice them being suspicious. I literally just saw the first person and was like, hey, can you tell me where to go to see Karada? And they were being, like, all suspicious and terrifying.
They didn't really say anything and were very dismissive. So Ishtar, thinking that this was a very shady individual, decided to tell a nearby butler individual that something was going on, and he went over to investigate. So the two stay to kind of watch and see what happens. They overhear the butler ask a question, and then suddenly there's an explosion, and the butler's thrown over against the wall. So the pair go and investigate the explosion and discover that it is on a support structure, and at that moment they hear successive explosions continuing around the rings of the castle. So at that point, shit's going down. So Davina and Ishtar run to Marius' room in an attempt to find him, and the castle begins to collapse in locations. At the same time, Marius, hearing the explosions, opens the door to Katriana's room in order to see if she is safe, and then finds two beings in dark cloaks and dark garb that are very out of place. One appears to be human, the other is unknown to Marius, but is covered in thick dark fur with white eyes. Marius confronts the intruders, and they claim to be guards, but they suddenly attack Marius. Boot, at this point, comes running into the room because he was afraid and smelled Marius, so followed the scent all the way to Katriana's room. Marius kills one of the men and threatens the other, who is now terrified by Boot, and then slits his own throat. As Boot grabs Marius to escape, Marius grabs the knife that the individual was carrying, which he assumed to be poison because he was carrying a vial at the same time, wrapped that up, and they were sprinting out of the castle. Let's see. Then...
So the ladies, Davina and Ishtar are running back to Marius' room because they have no reason to believe he's anywhere else.
So Crow is awoken by people running into his room. Crow is not wearing anything, picks up all of his stuff that he can carry in his small bird arms, and then for reasons only Crow could really explain, he decides that he's going to pick up yet another vase. So he has...
Except, fun fact, I don't know that Crow could actually explain it because Spencer wasn't there.
Yeah.
This was before Spencer showed up and Cooper was playing Crow for a little while.
He was. So he decided that this is the third vase that he is trying to carry around. At this point, he has collected 2 of them. So as he's over encumbered, not wearing clothes, carrying awkwardly, he drops all of his shit. The vases shatter, and he manages to lose a ruby that he stole the day before.
He's just trying to steal shit, drops it all, breaks the shit he was trying to steal, and loses something he already stolen.
So it's like the Three Stooges, but in one. So let's see. The explosions are continuing throughout the castle, and all of the members of the party manage to get outside. The 3 that are together, which are Crow, Davina, and Ishtar, manage to run out of the balcony that is attached to Crow's room, and Boot runs with Marius out the front door.
They all meet up outside. They all, found each other really quickly.
Yeah. So Boot grabs everyone and decides that he's going to break down the gate, which is adamantine and mithril, so Boot just smashes into it and hurts himself. But he was very well-meaning.
He tried.
He did. It's
really
Boot.
Tried.
So Davina sees Krata flying around and yells for him to help. Krata then pulls out a gun and aims, and it flies right past Ishtar's face.
Let it be known, it looked like he was about to shoot me in the fucking face, and then he shot the lock on the gate.
And so the gates blow open, and everyone's running out. The party tries to make a barrier that people can't go back in towards the castle. Krata is yelling, "Get away, there's another explosion coming." So a few NPCs at this moment, a guard and some other townsfolk are creeping...
Black thing?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
I was like, wait, did you say this yet or not?
Let's jump back just a quick second. At this point, there is a dark portal almost looking thing, a dark disc that is enveloping the castle, and as it passes over the castle, it disappears from view, and so it looks like it's being teleported or some type of effect of that way. And it's this portals. And then there's a white beam that shoots up from the castle that initiates the disc falling. So as the disc falls and reaches the bottom, this is at the point that Crowd is yelling there's another explosion coming. So the party currently builds just like a wall outside of the gate to try and keep people from getting...
It's mostly us still on Boot going, no! As people didn't listen
No, Boot
to
set
us.
everyone down at this point, and Boot's just kind of like helping you guys build a wall.
No. Boot still had us.
No, he didn't because of the next point. So the castle then reappears kind of shuddering as if filled with some type of potential energy, and then it exploded. So there's debris that flies over the entire city. Boot shields the party and people taking a significant amount of damage, barely able to actually keep walking.
I thought he didn't set us up quite yet.
So then everyone is in chaos. There's destroyed buildings. There's flames from the explosion. A lot of dead people. Let's see. The party decides at that point that
make a horrible decision.
That the only person that they know who might know anything or be able to figure out anything that's going on besides Katriana and Krata, who Krata is off flying wherever the fuck he wants to go because he has shit to deal with right now, and Katriana is off on her errands.
Which, by the way, at this point, with everything happening, we don't quite remember that she left the castle. Like, everything that happened, we kind of forgot about that.
So they think, at some point, they think she might be dead.
Yeah.
So they decide the only person who may know something is Eileen. So they decide to trek across Tal Freyat to the bar where Katriana used to work and Eileen was. So, as they approach the bar, there's a mob that is heard chanting, "Kill the tiefling, kill the tiefling, kill the tiefling." So, Ishtar, realizing that she is a tiefling, you know, in case she wasn't aware in the beginning,
you know, like
she rolled perception and realized she was a tiefling.
I didn't know I was a tiefling. Like, this whole time. That's the entire... That's, like, 90% of her issues.
Is the fact that
she's a tiefling. Like... But wasn't aware of this shit before.
She decides that she's going to put on the cloak of human guise wisely. And then Marius hands that over. Ishtar adorns herself with the cloak and becoming a beautiful woman with long blonde curls and bright green eyes.
Hair's almost white.
Yeah, blonde, almost white, so almost platinum. And just in time, they rounded a corner to see the chanting mob that was about to reach the tavern. Ishtar runs to the front, kind of blocks the door, and told them to stop, which actually surprisingly worked barely. Like, the roll was that close. And so...
But it did work.
They managed to figure out that the mob is blaming Eileen for the catastrophe that occurred. So after a quick conversation, Ishtar used Fascinate with a bardic performance on the crowd, and they just kind of stared at her and admired her as she's singing. Beautiful blonde woman, green eyes.
Gorgeous.
She's one of the most beautiful women you have seen.
Tiefling or human. She's hot, man.
Especially in your human guys.
Dude, I wish I looked like that. Holy shit.
Let's see. I can make a pretty character. So let's see. While the crowd is distracted, the others, which are Davina, Crow, and
Marius.
Thank you, Marius, decide that they're going to go into the tavern to extract Eileen. Crow decided to rob the place. Managed to get like a bottle of booze and like 50 platinum pieces. Some ridiculously huge amount. Might be gold. It's more gold than he really needed, and I was being generous. So Marius found him in the basement, lighting papers on fire next to barrels of alcohol. Eileen ran up the stairs, and so Marius was able to run down to see what was going on with the papers. And the only words he was able to catch while they were burning was Orizon and Palace, and then it started sparking. So he threw down the paper and rushed outside, told Davina, it's like, we gotta go. And so Davina runs to the front, tells Ishtar what's going on. Sort of.
She's basically like, he's out of there, you can stop.
Yeah. And so Ishtar ends her performance, yells, "Kill the tiefling!" So the crowd goes back up and Davina yells, "He's in the basement!" They start running around the building and kind of converge. The building explodes, killing everyone who was in there. So
they can all go die. They were gonna kill a tiefling because he was a tiefling. Actually, probably not, but that was the excuse that they were using. I'm not okay with that.
Neither of those two really knew that there was like fire going on, or that it was.
Sure, Davina knew, but
I don't think that she quite... Yeah, but at that point, there wasn't a whole lot of time to think about it. So, after there's screaming and the destruction of the bar, which I never named. It's really sad. I didn't. So, they run to the back, and Crow realizes that Elena's gone. So, Ishtar calls to them to alley, if you are here, show yourself. You won't be happy if I find you. And there was nothing.
No one.
So everyone's looking around doing survival checks to try and see if they can find a way to track him. Ishtar is the only one who notices a single footprint running one direction. So Ishtar just bolts after it, realizes that this is like the only lead that they have. So they pursue Eileen, lose the trail, and find it several times. At one point, Ishtar busts into the home of a family that says, whatever you want, take it, don't hurt us. Ishtar apologizes and starts to pull back the door as Crow goes in and says, anything you say. And then Ishtar pulls him back and shuts the door.
It was like with some stupid bluff. It was like, I'm trying to find my family! Fuck you! And then took off running.
It was awful. I should have made it a roll bluff, but it didn't matter.
It was really funny.
It
didn't matter if they believed me.
It didn't at that point.
It was gone, yeah.
So they round the corner and they come to two doors. One was swinging slightly. So, and also, they see in the distance Catriona sprint by along with Carvada, her Edgelon, her summoned creature. So Davina, Crow, and Boot sprint after Catriona. Ishtar and Marius go on the trail of Eileen. So Marius, being smart, takes a scythe and starts dragging along the doors, making marks so they'll be able to follow him. Took me a minute to realize it. I was actually very impressed with that.
Yeah.
So
I'll just fucking go.
Davina tells Catriona that they found Eileen and kind of what happened, just kind of in brief, that they were blaming him. So Catriona actually gets very dark, and then it's just like, let's go get him. Which, please...
I like it.
So, Ishtar ends up following Eileen to a door, ends up breaking down the door as someone doesn't enter, and they find a tiefling family. A mother, a father, and a child. And so they're huddled together. Ishtar demands that they give him Eileen. There's a brief exchange. Basically, they say that he's in the bedroom. Ishtar and Marius attempt to get him to leave the room because the door is locked. Ishtar threatens him. Marius threatens the family, revealing the fact that he was a mercenary. The others
important information
catch up and see this exchange. They all see a blue light underneath the door. Ishtar smashes down the bedroom door and finds that Eileen is not there, but there is, in fact, a teleportation circle. Catriona was able to duplicate the spell and follow him through. So there's some time that passes. And they bring him back during that time. Ishtar and... No.
We tried to kind of like placate the family a little bit. That went over horribly.
It didn't really work.
Because we were terrifying people who broke down a door and then threatened Eileen and then threatened the family, and like Marius threatened the kid, and so of course they weren't gonna.
He didn't threaten the kid directly.
He totally threatened the kid directly.
He threatened the family, and then it just kind of like...
He threatened the family and then said like something to the effect of like, he wonders how much he can get for the horns of like a young like a young child.
I don't remember that.
No, he threatened the kid directly.
Oh, well.
Hence why I took issue with that.
Yeah. All right. So after that, Catriona appears holding Eileen in manacles. They kind of figure out where to go, and so Catriona's like, oh, there's the abandoned district on the outside. We can just take him to a warehouse, which everyone is happy about. So they end up tying him up in a way that he won't really be able to move and kind of build traps and threaten him. There starts like some mild torturous events, and then Catriona like takes over another and is like, let me deal with my former coworker. So at this point, Davina decided to not take part in any type of this information gathering. Instead, decided to sit outside and grow some flowers. Crow was just kind of like mildly assisting, like put a bucket underneath Eileen. Marius kind of kept guard, and Ishtar was kind of like writhing hands in like the mad like raccoon meme that you see around.
I wanted my pound of flesh.
So at this point, Catriona steps back outside, kind of turns and he's like, he doesn't have his hands anymore. He was a spellcaster. I didn't want him to escape, but he's ready to talk. So at this point...
So I basically went, my turn, and went in.
So, let's see.
Leaving Marius guard.
Ishtar took off the cloak so that way it didn't get any blood on it. She offers to help Eileen, and he doesn't believe her. He told her that someone called in a favor that he had no choice but to grant. He didn't know who contracted him, only that they were noble. He had been told to leave a key to the castle at the docks on a flying ship adorned in gold. Ishtar gave him a chance to redeem himself, to offer any kind of information she could use to turn this around, and he gave none. He said, "I knew you would not help me," which just made her angry.
Pissed me off because, like, I seriously was just like, literally give me anything not to kill you right now, and he couldn't.
So he asked how many people killed that day, how many men, women, and children he murdered, and with that took the silver dagger and took out his heart and just kind of like dropped it. Decided not to keep it. While searching his body, she found like a code that they haven't been able to decipher and a belt. And she put the cloak of human guise back on and walked out to join the others. She relayed everything about the code and Mary's,
he had said.
Except for the belt. She kept that a secret. Katriana informed them that the ship in question belongs to Lady Kafrik. Everyone takes a look at the code. They decide it's most likely part of a larger puzzle. Crowd decided that he was going to try and take a crack at the code, but he came up empty-handed. They discuss kind of where to go from there. Katriana decides that they should go to a local tavern that she mentioned in the first episode of the game. Katriana apologizes to Davina for asking her to assist with the information gathering and the torture. Davina identifies the poison. This is before the tavern. She identifies the poison as Wyvern poison. Then they go to the tavern. They kind of discuss their plan and what they're gonna do. Let's see.
We talked about like potentially trying to find Crota, and then realizing that like he's got a lot to worry about, and so maybe we should find some more information first. So we decided what we're gonna do instead is go find more information on this ship and Kafrik and anything that can help there before we go find him.
So at that point, Davina decides that she's gonna go up to her room, but instead just like sits in the windowsill. Ishtar follows to speak with her. She apologized for her part in the torture that took place earlier and asks that Davina not hold the darkness against her. Davina says she will not, but the blood shed that day was more than any she should be okay with. She was dealing with it the way she knew how. Ishtar agreed it was terrible, but the only way to rectify this tragedy was to keep working and mourn when it had passed. At this point, downstairs, Marius is asking Crab about some obscure sexual reference in the lusty Tengu made, because bird parts and dampier parts are not the same. Crow is shocked and mildly disgusted unless Marius thinks what he likes, which is entirely incorrect, and then when pushed actually gives a hyper-detailed description to the point that Marius is disgusted.
Everyone's pretty disgusted.
But Katrina tells Marius the book gets better at the end, and he continues to have an interest in it. After a short while, the boys head upstairs to find Davina sitting in a windowsill at the end of the hallway. They catch her attention and begin discussing the day and the horror that they had seen. Marius tells Davina the same, very much similar that Ishtar had, that they would only be able to save what's going on, or solve what's going on by continuing to put forth effort and getting their hands dirty. Near the end of the conversation, they see Davina catches Katriana walking out of the building and down a different direction. After a discussion, they decide to follow her. Davina is not very keen on the idea. Ishtar and Marius are definitely more keen on doing it. Crow also, for his own reasons. Ishtar at this point is in her room, deciding that she was gonna head to bed. So let's see. So Marius and Davina go out, starting to follow Katriana. Crow decides that he actually doesn't want to bother Ishtar and just kind of knocks on his own door.
It's not so much he doesn't want to bother me, he just doesn't want to deal with me. He's just like, I don't want to do this. Fine. Knocks on his own door to say he knocked on a door.
Which then Ishtar hears, comes outside.
Having the perception that she does, because she's baller.
And then they run out to try and follow her. Okay, so they joins them and they run outside. Let's see.
Everyone rolls stealth. I am clearly superior to everyone.
Crowd rolls a 1 twice, which one involves him singing to himself. Then when told that he's kind of humming and singing, he then smashes a local shop window, which then causes like an alarm spell to go off. Katrina turns around, doesn't see anyone because everyone manages to hide. How? I don't know.
Natural 20.
And then kind of looks up towards the rooftops and then goes on her merry way. Ishtar manages to follow her more closely than the others. They end up following her for a while, which she goes to a building, which she knocks and hears. Ishtar, being the closest, decides to actually go to that door and look through the window to see Katriana talking to a man and then receiving 2 books and passing gold. During this, the others, one street away, kind of...
they were about a street away.
Yeah, Katriana ends her business and then heads outside. Ishtar ducks behind in the alley nearest that building. The other 2 are street away, see Ishtar ducking, and then move over to the side. Crow decides that he's going to climb the building, which is the wrong building.
Yeah, he's also one street away with Davina and Marius. They were in the same spot, and I was a street ahead.
So he manages to make it all the way up to the top and then fails and falls just as Ishtar is ducking along the side of the other building. Seeing this, Crow hides. Marius grabs Davina and asks, "Do you trust me?" Something along the lines of "kinda" is said, so he grabs her and kisses her convincingly enough that the passing Katrina doesn't realize who they are and passes with nothing but a comment about getting a room and that they are cheap. Doing like one of the stereotypical sailor kissing the nurse kisses that you see.
Or as Cooper was so happy to call it, the fake out, make out.
So at this point, Davina pushes Marius away, slaps him, and warns him never to do it again. Their acting was so good, Crow thought they had witnessed the start of a new relationship until the slap happened, and then he was confused. Ishtar decided to try and gain more information, so with the cook of human guys, she knocked on the door, kind of bluffing her little heart out, saying that...
just kept saying bullshit until
something about Katriana, and just like, she's supposed to help me. You said that you would know something. Kind of asked about a book regarding the nobles, got a little information, but nothing new about Lady Kafrik. Then realized that Katriana, after paying him, got two books about Asimars for Davina because her library was destroyed and she had promised her books.
Technically speaking, all I found out was the thing about that she got books on Asimars. Everything else was implied, but never directly stated.
Ishtar, realizing her mistake and distrusting Katriana, ends their conversation and quietly walks away. Meets up with the others. They begin to follow Katriana back to the inn, except for Crow, who decides that he's going to break into the bookstore.
Because Lord only knows why, because Crow is Crow and does what he wants.
On the way back to the inn, Katriana took an unexpected turn. Davina decided to ignore it and went back to the inn, while Ishtar and Marius decided to follow Katriana. So, jumping to Crow, this is his little adventure at this point. Upon approaching the door, he noticed multiple locks and proceeded to try and pick them. He managed to open the door, and they were actually like the hotel slide locks. So he managed.
It took him so long.
He managed to break two of them, and then one of them was magical, so it took far longer than he expected, but managed to break it. Got into the door. Once he closed it, the lock mended itself, or the magical chain fixed itself.
Made some joke about like stealing the lock instead, and I'm pretty sure he was like about to do it, and then was like, nah.
I never know with him.
I'm pretty sure he was about to actually steal the lock.
He was looking for valuables, found that there was a glass case with two expensive-looking books inside, took out a glass cutter and proceeded to cut a hole in the glass. So he checked for traps on a book and found, and he reached out for one of the books. Several metal straps from the stand actually came and wrapped around his bird hand. I don't know what to call it, wing hand. We're just going to say hand for easy purposes. And it was very cold, and it actually caused damage. After several attempts, as it started to grow up his wing, he was able to remove his arm from the trap, decided to poke at a second book with a bookmark that he found. Nothing happened, so he decided that he was going to enlarge the glass, so cut a much larger hole. Tried to actually push the other book with the bookmark, but he saw that the stand actually wrapped around to kind of lock it in place. So he just kind of decided not to enrage another book, and then just kind of gave up and was going to try and grab something nearby when he heard footsteps upstairs.
He heard footprints.
He has great hearing.
His perception is insane.
So the store owner came down with a gun and saw the broken glass. He pulled a wand out of his pocket, flicked it to repair the glass case and the two locks that he had broken, besides the magical lock, then spoke to the room at large. "Whoever you are, good luck at getting out," laughed to himself, then went back upstairs and shut the door. Crowd just kind of resigned himself to what was going on, grabbed the closest book, and just sat and read. And it ended up being The Lusty Dampier Maid.
Because Colton's mean. Also, really interested to see what happens with him now, because he's just sitting in the dark in a bookstore that he broke into.
And is not trying to get out. He's just...
no intent of getting out at this point.
So we're going to see. Jumping to Marius and Ishtar. They followed Katriana down several streets. She ended up sprinting at some point for an unknown reason. They almost lost her. Carvada is seen blazing past on the rooftops. Carvada is, again, the Summon Egelon creature. She finally came to stop in front of a wall with nothing in it in an alley on a side street. So Ishtar looks and then goes back and looks, and she's gone. And then Carvada is seen going into the wall a few moments later. Ishtar decided that she was going to follow, told Marius to wait 5 minutes, then follow her. Marius agreed, and she walked through the wall. Inside it is an empty white room with Katriana lying unmoving on the floor.
Let it be known, checked the wall before I went through to find out that it was illusionary magic. I really needed to check that it was an illusion, but let it be known I did check.
She did.
This is important to me.
So after she notices Katriana lying on the floor, she realizes that her ring has stopped beating and the stone is gray, and the Cloak of Human Guise has also stopped working. Ishtar realizes that Katriana is not dead,
At the
but
point
just
that I
unconscious.
realized there was no magic, kind of started to freak the fuck out.
So Ishtar kind of hears Katriana just kind of revive and just goes, "Get out," and then just passes out. Ishtar kind of ignores it, looks around, tries to go through the wall she came through, and ends up hitting a hard surface. So she's starting to get desperate and freak out, so she decides to counter the illusionary magic using one of her bardic performances. Or is it bardic performance?
Yeah, it's a bardic performance.
Alright, so tries to counter that illusion. Nothing happens on her side of the wall. Marius, however, just sees like shimmering on the wall.
It's been about a minute at that point.
Yeah. So Ishtar just kind of like gives up and then just starts having like a freak out moment. Marius decides to take a scythe and try and push it through the wall, and he does, and tries to pull it back and realize it's stuck. So he pushes it further, trying to get to the point where Ishtar can see it. Ishtar sees it, just kind of like pulls twice, and then he just kind of like lets the scythe go and kind of pushes it all the way through the wall. So now it's in the room with Ishtar. So Marius waits a moment, thinks about going to get Davina, realizes he doesn't quite know where he is or how to get back. He walks in, sees Katriana on the floor, Ishtar starting to panic. There's no evidence where Carvada is. So Marius tried to calm Ishtar and picked up Katriana, kind of put him on his shoulders. Ishtar's functional at this point. Learned that they couldn't get out the way they came. Marius suggested that they have to move forward and suggested hugging a wall like it's a maze. So they walk through, realize that they can't go back the way that they came.
Through the right wall.
Yeah. And
this is important.
Yeah, and so they keep entering identical rooms, so his plan is just to continue hugging the right wall. They go through the third room.
So basically it's, we turn right wherever we could, and then if we couldn't turn right, we would go straight.
So they managed, after a while, to realize that they were just kind of walking in a big box. At some point, there's a coin that's dropped, and they draw an arrow just in case they end up hitting it again, trying to see if it's actually an identical room or not.
And Ishtar had her journal and was
making a
rudimentary map.
So at this point, they reach the room that they started in after entering, so they decide they're going to take one more right, thinking that's going to take them out of the maze, and they end up in a very large round room where there's individuals that are like chained up, which they recognize to be a lot of people from the castle or nobles.
We actually didn't check at all.
Yeah.
We didn't know who they were. We just knew that they
Ishtar,
were alive.
Katriana managed to figure out who they were because she awoke at this point and doesn't have any memory of anything prior, even at the point of entering the wall or an indeterminate time prior.
As best we can tell, she remembers leaving the bookstore, but at some point between the bookstore and assumedly
the inn.
Sometime between the bookstore and when she made that weird turn. So she has no idea what happened.
In this room with the individuals, in order to test it, there's a juggler's ball that she threw.
Yeah.
Not terribly important. It's a little important.
It is to me.
Okay, there's a juggler ball that's on the floor that she used.
Because I threw it through the wall to be like, can we actually, because it was the wall that we had
originally
come through. And so it had been solid. So I threw it so I didn't just run into a solid wall. It's important to me.
Alright. So Katriana awoke. There's two doorways, one behind them and one in front of them. The one ahead of them is shrouded in white light. The one behind them is shrouded in darkness. So Ishtar manages to calm herself down as all of the magic is back. Her ring is beating. The color's back. The Cloak of Human Guise has regained power. So they explain everything to Katriana. Why Ishtar and Marius were there and that they were following her. Very forward and honest. They inspected the bodies on the wall to see that the ones that they did inspect were still alive. There was one that was distinctly different, had triple bands on the wall and was shrouded with an illusion. So Katriana, man, it was just kind of I don't think we should do this, but it's just kind of
not what she said! If she had said that, I wouldn't have done it! No, you know what that's what you were trying to imply, but that is not what you said, which is why I didn't go off of that. What she said was, you decide! And then it was very clear it was different!
She kind of gave arguments on both sides, but just kind of I'll do whatever, I'm up for an adventure.
What am I supposed to do? By the way, there's illusionary magic covering the one that was different.
So Ishtar uses a bardic performance to cancel out the illusion, realizing that this creature is now a broken soul, which they don't quite know what it is yet.
It's gonna kill us.
It's very formidable. So the broken soul locked eyes with Ishtar and said something in Celestial that she didn't understand, and then in Infernal said, "Welcome to my game." Davina at this point is having a lovely stroll home, and you are now up to date on the adventures of 3D Screenplays. At least, at number 8. So, today Monday. So yeah, tomorrow we're going to continue with this, and they're going to hopefully survive or figure out what's going on.
And if I don't, I have some great other character ideas.
Yeah, so we're going to see what happens. Let's see. Anything else? Anything else that we need to mention?
Like 3 of us leveled up.
Yeah, there's been some progressive
that happened.
Stuff. Anything else that we think of, we'll be sure to add into the prelude.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. So thank you guys for watching, and you guys, we will see you tomorrow. And unless you're watching this after tomorrow, then you'll see us whenever. We generally go on Tuesdays. It's on YouTube, as you're probably watching this on YouTube. No, don't stop it.